He's back. After 2 long years, he is finally back. Where Animals Scientific Names Come From by Sam O'Neill Academy. He's finally back, bro. I actually genuinely miss his videos. His videos were some of the best. Him and Casually Explained. I'm waiting for Casually Explained to come back too. Miss that music. Miss the music. Come on, man.
Hey kids, I just woke up from a nap I took in January of 2020, and boy, am I
January of
Let's see what I missed.
2020.
Queen's dead, war in
Miss
Ukraine, the
mad
Taliban's
stuff.
back.
2020? Wasn't that World War III, right? Something like that. I don't know.
What is... Holy
But that's all lately.
shit.
That's all lately.
They made a movie called Scoob.
I did not even know that.
Unprecedented global pandemic, Space Jam 2, some popular guy named Brandon. Yep, that just about covers it. Anyway, we all know about the scientific names of animals, but did you ever wonder what they actually mean? To find out, we must look to taxonomists. They're the guys responsible for the systems of nomenclature we use to classify organisms, and boy are they convoluted. First you got the big 8, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I've seen plenty of mnemonic devices for this, but since the D just showed up in the 90s and is still disputed by some scientists, he's usually not included.
Wait,
so allow me to
wait, what? The D just came up in the 90s. They didn't have domain until the 90s? Okay.
Just a few. Dizzy kids puke cereal on fairground staff. Dumb kittens pushing cups over feeds growing spite. Donkey Kong's serendipitously. The way this whole thing works differs slightly depending on which kingdom you pick. So today we'll be sticking to the animal one, cause that one's the coolest, and I'm in it. So what constitutes each taxon is pretty arbitrary. They basically just serve to act as another set of branches in the tree that taxonomists built. The one exception is species, which is generally defined as any group of animals that can have babies with each other that aren't sterile freaks. Mule, liger, zedonk, skunk ape, they can live fulfilling lives, but they're all shooting blanks, so they don't count. On the other hand, in our innumerable trespasses against God, we can make things like chidandanes, which actually work. So dogs are dogs are dogs. Besides species, though, it's the Wild West in here. Plenty of times, 8 tiers isn't even enough for scientists, so they just stick new sublevels in between. Legions, cohorts, tribes, series, divisions, and if you want to keep going, you can throw all kinds of prefixes on any of these for even more layers. There's even subspecies, which the more pedantic of you may think to yourselves that creating names for subspecies at all kind of undermines the single somewhat agreed upon definition in the whole tree. To that, my friends, taxonomists say, but while that's pretty complex, the actual names themselves are pretty easy to wrap your head around. Though taxonomists may hide behind their fancy Greek and Latin, the Vulgate is no substitute for wit. Now, I've scraped through the scientific names of a load of species, and most of them can be split into a few categories.
If he dead right through all of that, man, God bless him. That's the reason. That's the reason he left. This took him 2 years.
The simplest ones are the animals that already have names in Greek or Latin. It's a lion, I'm calling it Leo. Done. Tiger, it's a tigris. Cat, it's a catus. Easy. Multi-word names can be translated the same way. For the golden eagle, we got Aquila chrysaetos. Gold eagle eagle. They decided to be a show-off and do eagle in Greek and Latin. Essentially the same though. But if a species is too specific or exotic for a one-to-one translation, that's when you gotta get a little creative. A lot of the time, inspiration comes from just giving the creature the old one-syllable, pointing out some cool-looking body part. Generally, the more distinctive an identifying feature it is, the more likely it'll get in the name. For example, Homeboy took one look at this thing and said, yup, red triangle slug. I'm going on break. We called this thing a fucking unicorn, almost like that means one horn or something. Also, some guy deadass looked at an octopus and said, well, all they got is heads and feet. I'ma call them headfoot. And now biologists everywhere say cephalopod unironically. Matter of fact, if it's got feet, chances are that's part of its name somewhere. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, soccer feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet, or feet, both feet, joint feet, no feet, 10,000 feet, cow's feet, spade feet, cat feet,
this
small
is like
feet.
Real? Hold up. Like he made this to a song, but that's like real. It's like real. Dicopodia.
Feet 2.
Dippo Dibide. Dippo Dide.
Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, sucker feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet.
I didn't even know there was like a reason.
No feet,
like there's a reason.
Feet, cow's feet, spade feet, cat feet, small feet. If it doesn't look that
feet,
interesting, another thing to point out is where you found it. This could be a territory like American bear or Siamese crocodile, or just a habitat like woods macaque or toilet rat. But that's boring. We need to look at the men behind the magic.
Toilet rats.
What drives and motivates them.
That's what the government says. Come on, man. They just don't want you to have the fear. You never know when something's gonna come up, and just come on, man. Come on, man. I had that fear in Florida. thought a lizard was about to just come up, or alligator in the toilet. I don't know, man. That was my first time in Florida, though, when I had that fear.
There's one thing that the scientific community loves.
I never had
It's
that fear in
clout,
New
and there's
York,
no
but
better
I'm
way
from
to
New
go
York.
down in history than plastering your own name on some shit you found. But not all fields have the same volume of things to scribble the old John Hancock over. On the one end, you got physicists just making up their own slightly different form of ionizing radiation measurement, and even then, only the top dogs got away with it. Now, zoology, any little goober flouncing through the underbrush can say, this one has 13 spots, but the one in the book's only got 11. I will call him Splinkus's ladybird. Alternatively, plenty of biologists have given shout-outs to their contemporaries, both other biologists and those across the academic gamut, from geologists to physicists to explorers and more. Naturally, Darwin's got a shitload, but even the background characters get immortalized one way or another. Who are Thompson, Grant, Summering, Erlanger, Speke, and Cuvier? I don't know, but they've all got gazelles, so they must be pretty cool. Of course, other times, the name checks go to people who had fuck all to do with anything except for one taxonomist being a
Base
fan
guy,
of theirs.
come on, man.
Popular celebrities have species
Base
named after
guy.
them, but since all the big cute stuff was found and branded a while
There need
ago,
to be an
most
animal
of these
called
idols
Base God. That would be real. Hey, there's Base God. Hey, it would catch on, maybe. I don't know.
are commemorated through repulsive little invertebrates. You got Scaptia Beyonce. The only similarity I can gather here is queen bee. It looks like a bee, both not a real bee. There's Anomphilus gregarius, an old stone named after an old stone. In 2007, one Jason Bond, a professor of biology at UC Davis, dubbed this little dude Myrmecia Neil Youngie to honor his favorite musician, which caused my man Stephen Colbert to go on TV and profess his utter indignation at not having a spider named after himself. So naturally, the next year, Bond actually went on the Colbert Report to announce the naming of apostachus Stephen Colbert. So, if that gives any of you epic biologists out there any ideas, you know, I wouldn't be opposed. Please, I would do anything for the love of God. I'll even take a lichen. The world of politics is by no means immune to this phenomenon. Obama alone has fucking 9, as do a load of other presidents. Trump's got a moth with funny hair, Bush has a fungus beetle, Reagan's a wasp, Carter's got a darter, and so forth. Even Austria's most famous painter got the honor through this blind cave beetle. Mind you, it was 1933, so you can only blame the guy a tiny bit. Hitler actually wrote him a letter saying, "Oh,
it wasn't prime time.
You know, Hitler
prime time. That came at 9.
Not only was this beetle stuck with just about the worst name you could have, it's also now facing extinction solely because of its value to Nazi memorabilia collectors. Guess old habits die hard. Oh, fictional characters have their share of species under their belt. On the topic of evil beetles, this one's named after Darth Vader because he kind of looks like his helmet, I guess. This was actually named by the same guy who did the Bush one and belongs to the same genus.
Definitely
missed them. That's
crazy.
Darth Vader, which is a lot more accurate and frightening. In 2012, a single bone from above the eye socket of a hitherto unidentified...
He probably said a joke right there. Well, I got the... Come on, man.
Odd dinosaur was being studied, and suddenly, under the light of the full moon, the guy working with the specimen had his neck covered with hair and his lips clenched into a pog and his endocrine system filled with soy, and he said, "It's just like the eye of Sauron." And then he started chewing on Funko Pops and sweating cream of meme and snorting G Fuel and shitting D20s everywhere until the prostate stimulation made him. The dino's genus is now Sauroniops, from Eye of Sauron. This spider was named after Godric Gryffindor because it looks like the Sorting Hat. SpongeBob has not a sponge, but a fungus. The legendary birds from Pokemon each have their own, you guessed it, beetle, and the list goes on.
What?
Scientists are nerds. Who knew? Anyway, while this all seems kind of chaotic, there is some method to the madness. One rule is the principle of priority. This states that once somebody publishes their chosen name for a species for the first time, that's the name, and other taxonomists typically can't change it. This has led to plenty of misnomers coined by whoever got their foot in the door first, particularly in the case of the guys doing this stuff before we had the luxury of genetic analysis. Here's one. Red panda? Nah. Shining cat, coined in 1825. To be fair, they're actually about as close to cats as they are to actual pandas, so whatever. Here's 2. Capsicum chinense. Eaten there? Sure. Native? Only off by around half a globe, where literally all hot peppers came from. This principle holds true even if someone thinks they found a new species, only to later discover that it was already named. For example, in 1824, one John Edward Gray documented the plain zebra, calling it Equus burchellii, or Burchell's horse, named after a renowned naturalist of the day. Little did he know, back in 1785...
Bro, these names suck! Oh, yo, these names suck, man. What's wrong with you?
Mother douche classified this character as the quagga. The last quagga died in a Dutch prison in 1883, so why do we care? Well, in the 2000s, scientists decided to scrape some gunk off a dry quagga pelt and study its DNA. And from that they realized, wait a minute, apparently this guy and zebras could have, you know, made a little plaid in the hay together. So technically they're one species, and today they're both called quagga. Sounds kind of asinine, but then again...
They're zebras. Quagga sounds stupid. They're zebras. They're zebras. I don't
so
care.
does Asinus, and that worked out fine. Just to maintain the distinction, the extinct subspecies was renamed Quagga quagga, so you know it's the real quagga.
Ain't
This
no
double
quagga,
naming
that's a
convention has been
zebra.
done with a
That's
lot
a
of
zebra.
subspecies, in fact. Wild horse, spotted panther, or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah, it's the gorillest gorilla that ever gorilled. Fuck you want from me. A closely related rule also states that the names of all taxa have to be unique.
Bro, this
So
is
if two people
crazy.
coincidentally name any taxa on the same thing, the older one gets to stay, and the new one gets the boot. Like if you saw a genus called Echidna, you'd think it was, you know, an echidna, right? Well, no, that'd make too much sense. For a while it was true, from 1797 to 1811. Then it was pointed out that someone else already called a genus of moray eels echidna back in 1788. So the real echidna had to be changed to Tachyglossus, or quick tongue. Then a decade later, a dude did the same thing for a genus of vipers. Another 22 years passed, people discovered the same thing, and they were renamed to Bitis, cause they bit us. That one at least made a bit of sense, given that the original echidna from Greek mythology was half lady, half snake, but who cares at this point. Anyway, I've just barely scraped the surface of all the goofy names out there, so feel free to post more down below. That's all I've got for now. Until next time, I'm Salmonella, and I'll see ya in 2025.
Exactly. 3 years? Dang, you gonna take an extra year off, man. If you like the video, subscribe. If you didn't, that's cool too. Like, subscribe, you already know. Gone 2 years, back like he never left. That's kind of fire. That's kind of fire. Few can do that. Few can do it. Yeah, most can do it. Few can pull it off. He pulled it off. Come on, man. Special. That's fire.